So what do you do if you've followed all this advice, you've done all the right things, you've put in the time and the work and your heart and soul into applying for funding for a project that you really believe in, and you still get no from the funders, you still get rejected? How can you move forward from that, and what can you do about it? So I'll just start by saying that getting a no from funders is just part of being a fundraiser, of running a not-for-profit organisation. And having worked in this sector for about 16 years now, it never really gets any easier. It's never nice to hear no when you've put everything into a project that you really believe in and that you know would genuinely make a positive difference in your community. It is really hard to get that rejection. It can be very, very disheartening. However, it's really important to remember that it's not personal. It is just not personal. Because of course there are thousands of really passionate people and really great organisations across the UK, across the world, delivering really important work out there. And funders, like everybody else, have a limited resource, so they have to make some tough decisions too. But in no means do I want to come across as negative. It is inevitable that you're going to get rejected from funders because everybody does and the competition is high. I wanted to put together 3 positive things that you can do to move forward positively if you get a rejection from a funder. The first thing is to ask for feedback from that funder. Sometimes they'll give you that feedback automatically. They'll tell you why your application was rejected. Other times you have to ask for it. Sometimes they won't really give you any feedback or nothing that's very constructive, and that's even more frustrating because you've got nothing to work on. But it's always worth asking. It's always worth going back to them and asking, could you just tell me a bit more about why my application wasn't successful and perhaps what you'd be looking for in the future? If they don't have the resource to provide that information to individual applicants, look out for any webinars or Q&A sessions that they do, because although some funders are unable to give you very specific feedback to your bid, they will hold sessions for interested applicants or people who have applied and been unsuccessful to kind of connect with them, to ask questions in more of a public forum. Or you can do that on their social media often as well. So try and connect with them in some way, attend an event that they hold, comment on social media, positively. And if you don't understand what they're getting at with their feedback, or you don't feel you've got anything constructive to work with, then by all means try and contact them again. I think there's this sense of us and them in terms of organisations and funders, and it's really not like that at all. I mean, I help to run a number of events where voluntary organisations get to meet the funders in person and just have a chat about what they do. And, believe it or not, the people who work for trusts and foundations, who work for funders, they're all actually human. Most of them are actually really nice people. So they might not always have the time to reply to you individually, but they will try to be helpful if they can. So don't be afraid of asking for any, to point them in the right direction of any resources that might help you a bit more next time. Secondly, reuse that content from that failed bid for another funder, or save what you've written as those standard answers that we talked about earlier in the series. That way you won't feel like all that work that you've put in has gone to waste, and the chances are the next funder you apply to will ask exactly the same questions. The chances are you'll be applying for funding for that or a similar project again. So whatever you do, keep those answers, which is another reason why I recommend working on your answers offline in another document rather than just in your online form. Keep what you've written and reuse it, work on it, improve it, but don't just dismiss it because it didn't get you the money. Use it again and save yourself some time. And then of course check when you can reapply to that funder. Sometimes you can apply straight away. Sometimes even if you've been unsuccessful, you have to wait 12 months before applying again. So find out what that time scale is and make a note of it. But also make sure that you don't just resubmit that same bid that was unsuccessful. You can apply for the same project, but make sure you work on it. Work on your answers. Take into account any feedback. Get someone else to read it and critique it for you. Make sure that you give them something else than you gave them the last time. Explain something a little bit better, add some more detail, get some better feedback, use some different statistics. Make sure that what you're asking them to read a second time is something different, is a different proposal, but definitely look to reapply. Don't just get knocked back once and think, well, they're just not interested, because sometimes it takes 2 or 3 attempts to apply to a same funder to actually get to know what they're looking for and have some success. So if you've submitted an application and been rejected, perhaps you could comment below on some of the feedback that you got, which might in turn help someone else who's looking to apply. And remember to stay positive. You're in this for the long run. It can be easy to kind of get disheartened when you get rejected early on in the process of applying for funding. But fundraising is a long game, and you get better and better at it. You get more confident at it. You get better at identifying the funders that are the right fit for you, of knowing what they want. You get better at talking about your project, about talking about what you do well and how it works. So in terms of successes and failures when it comes to applying for grants, it's very up and down. But just know that it's like that for everybody, regardless of how long you've been in the game. So don't get disheartened and keep going.